Okay, so as Saurabh has said, it is industry academia collaboration, and it's a warm welcome to all of you. And I'm so glad that so many of us are participating, and I'm sure that at the end of the session, we'll have something really beautiful out of it. And that's the idea. Um I don't know if you can see the whole slide, but my mantra lately, because of all of these changes in the environment and how we have been pushed to the wall, is life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So all training, all lectures, all seminars worldwide used to happen with the physicality aspect of it. Today we are all, dependent on our technical expertise. And so expectations out of this session is it's going to be an open and interactive session. And I hope that whatever I bring about to the table will lead to a very nice discussion. And the keyword being collaborative. And I had not known that Saurabh will be playing this video. And it is so beautiful. First of all, you took us back to that time when this video had started. It was a huge novel experience for all viewers of Doordarshan. So you started on a very good note. Collaboration is the key word, more so now in this world where everything cannot be singular. It has to be many, many people, many, many minds and hearts joining together. Let me share with you why I can or I'm allowed to speak on this topic is because my journey with the education industry started in 2007 when I was working with the hotel industry, and I got to work with universities and two different universities over a period of 10 years, a decade long. By the time I had already worked with hotels, like I said, advertising, real estate, media, so many, different industries. And even if the industry was similar, when I changed jobs, the profile of work was very different. And I used to sometimes feel that, every time I changed job, I would have had to start from scratch. So all of you must be thinking that she's jack of all trades, or like, let's be gender specific, than Jackie of all trades. There's the saying that a jack of all trades and master of none. And believe me, I used to get really frustrated every time I change job for whatever reasons. Mostly women may associate with this, marriage, then children, child rather in my case. And you need to change your job because you've changed your domicile, and it used to be frustrating. But when I started working for the hotel industry, and I started handling MICE segment of business, which is meetings, incentives, conferences, and events. In that process, you get to meet every industry. And believe you me, when you're handling conferences, if anybody's handled the hotel background, you have to spend hours with your customer and client, understanding their requirement from the concept of running tea, coffee. If you're handling a Ranbaxy, you have doctors and pharmacists for the conference. They don't want the hotel food. So you'll have to sit and understand what kind of food they want, pre-packed in a certain way. I mean, I had the Bijli brothers of PVR Cinema saying, "Hame se brown bread chahiye." And my chef, you know what he did? He said, "Let me try something new." So one slice brown bread and one slice of white bread in that sandwich. And it was all pandemonium. The client was furious. So we had all kinds of these things. And I realized when I joined the education industry, I joined to handle the placements. Much later, I went on to head life skills, business communication, and I became a faculty with that institute. At that time, it was an institute, now a full-fledged university. And I realized that since I had handled all these clients, whether it was Nokia, Ericsson, Nestle, MDI University, as clients for conferences, I understood the basic need or the ethos of these industries. So that jack of all trades, master of none, in fact, helped me a lot. This was on slightly on a lighter note. Now I joined the education industry, and the first thing I get is a shock. My very first initiation into education was when my then boss said that, "Okay, Meena, there are these list of 300 clients. Please choose. The ones that are empty in this Excel sheet are your clients to choose." We were hardly 2-3 people at that time, and I was very, very happy, thrilled, beyond the moon, because I had fabulous names on that list, like Nokia, Ericsson, Luxottica that brought Bosch and Lomb, Ericsson, McKinsey, KPMG, and I chose the best out of those 300 lists. And my colleague at that time was laughing, and I said, "Why are you laughing?" But he didn't share his thought process. He said, "No, no, you will know." And he had taken the entire banking and insurance sector in his list. So my very first meeting was with McKinsey and the HR heads of McKinsey and A.T. Kearney. And the shock that I got was I was told very categorically. First of all, they said, "Why did you leave the hotels? And which is this institute that you have joined?" And they said, "See, you want to discuss the weather? You want to discuss cricket? You want to come and have a cup of coffee? Ma'am, you're great. Absolutely good to go. Come and have this with us. But whether it is placements, internships, summers or otherwise, we only go to the IIMs, and that too ABC, which is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta." And I was shocked. I said, "So you mean to say that other universities or institutes, and we have galore, every state has innumerable number of universities, and whether they're private or public, you would not even look at them?" And I was told yes. My next assignment was, I was told by the management to organize a seminar and invite industry practitioners. And it was a beautiful, um, you know, Audi at the Delhi University campus where 400 students could sit and listen. So we invited, I and my another colleague, we invited a person from FMCG, entrepreneurs, retail, at that time, Big Bazaar and Shoppers Stop, and all of them were coming into India. And people were trying to understand what is the difference between a franchisee and a retail outlet. And we called them in. And it was a beautiful experience. The entrepreneur spoke the way he needed to speak, from the heart, in terms of even, the investment, starting from investment and the deliverables and everything. One of my guests from the FMG sector, who at that time was working for a credit rating company, CRISIL. And when his time came to speak, he said, "My first job, Meena has introduced me, in such a beautiful way. And she has shared with you that my first job was with Coke. And brilliant. And all of you clapped and, and you thought, wow, very first job, Coke." But he said, "Let me also tell you an inside story that the first 6 months, my job was to pick up crates, lift them and put them in a truck. And I was dejected and disillusioned. I really didn't know what to do. This is not why I did my master's or an MBA, business course from a reputed university or an institute. And here I'm with Coke, wanting to learn strategy and so on and so forth, and I'm only lifting crates." So I thought to myself, either I can try or do something or learn something. So whether it was good, bad, ugly, what I did is I befriended the truckers and I started to learn to drive trucks. Today, after so many years, I can be any part of the world and I'll be the best trucker in, and on any given day. Needless to say, he also went on to say that I don't want you to do something wrong in your first job, something which is you're not entitled to or allowed to. But what I'm trying to say is that, you make the best of what you get. And during that conversation, what we realized is that the universities are providing a student, and what the corporate world requires is probably absolutely different. Now, the hurdles that come in between academia and industry collaboration, we have to understand, especially the postgraduate level, even undergraduate level. Um, there is a huge, discrepancy, what you say, or there's a gap. Students for the postgraduate program comes from very scattered backgrounds. You may have a science student, you may have a commerce students. It's now in past 10 years that schools at school level, you have, subjects where an HR student can also choose from psychology, sociology, and a fashion course like a fashion technology. And a science students can pick up language and also take in maybe something psychology or sociology. It has happened only in the recent years. Needless to say that after the schools, the children go on to pick up a course in graduate level, undergraduate level. I have an example. A student of mine, I asked her, I said, "Why did you take a BSc zoology?" "Ma'am, only this was available." And then she comes to do a master's course, a business course, an MBA course, not knowing what is next. So you spend so many years in school, about 17 years in school, 3 years of graduate degree, then 2 years of master's. And if you feel like going abroad, you'll have to put in another year, because abroad, especially US and UK, you have to do a 4-year graduate degree. I'll give you some more examples which flustered me a lot. Was the retails. at that time, this was a new concept in India. The petrol pumps will start having these convenience stores. So it was very new to Indians, Abroad, it was already prevalent. You stop at the petrol pump to buy fuel. I'm saying buy fuel because we buy fuel. Abroad, you buy fuel, but you have to do the whole chore yourself. And then you go. Maximum, you will go and fill some air in your tires. But that concept that had come at that time was new to India, was that you can also have a store where you can buy grocery, you can buy knickknacks and stuff like that. And this company that had approached us for final placements or even summers, they said both profiles are okay, categorically asked us to give the hometowns of the students. And therefore, we went back to the corporate client and said, why is this necessary? They said that we would want these students to go to these so-called, at that time, 2-tier, 3-tier cities. And it was even Adidas, Reebok, they were hiring our students on third-party role. And they said that we want students from these small towns. Guess what? None of the students wanted to pick up that profile. They said, we have come from maybe a Kanpur or a Raipur, sort of, we are from that town. It's a beautiful city now. It's amazing. But at that time, even now, the thought process is, we've come out from there, we don't want to go back. And even the universities, when they want their professors or the faculty, they will not disclose this openly, but they want doctorate level teachers and faculty. So what happens, the relevance of all these points, I have deliberately missed out a few, we can always discuss them later, is the students are far removed from what is happening in the real world. Now, this is from the academia side. I think the larger onus or ownership lies with the corporate world. Now, I have seen both. I have worked for a decade in the education industry. Rest of my career for about 29 years has been with the corporate world. I've handled sales and marketing everywhere. But training has been always my profile also, where I have trained my team in product training or negotiation skills or how to close a deal. And so training and, let's say, teaching is at the core of my heart. Now, the bottlenecks and hurdles are mainly from the corporate world. The corporate world, clients, no matter which industry, always says, oh my God, we need people, we need employees, but when we go to hire from universities, skill sets required don't match. Over and above that, most of the clientele, the so-called dream companies, would go to the top-notch colleges and hire. Corporate world is keen to be guest speakers. Nobody is willing to take the responsibility of a visiting faculty for a module. The other thing is also very true. Let me say, if today I was to go to my company and say, listen, I want to go and deliver a module. I'm from the hospitality industry. And why should we only look at IHM students? Because most dedicated part of the studies is dedicated to the operational side of it. Somebody wanting to join a hotel industry for sales like I did will have no idea how the front office works, how housekeeping works, so on and so forth. Production, which is your chefs, and the service, which is your F&B. How does this work? What is room sales? What is my segment? Who is there to teach our students that? Or if you're teaching them something for F&B, service, how to fold a napkin, very small little things, how to greet, what is grooming, dining etiquette, why can't somebody from my hotel or my club take on this module with the university? But no company would be open to this idea of giving man hours or woman hours away. So nobody is ready to, the bosses will not allow you to probably move out of office for a few hours and take up one session a week. I'll give you an example. There was a KPO and they came to us and they said that, listen, we want some students, and they sent a job description and they categorically mentioned that we want students who had chemistry as their graduate module. Chemistry was a must. And so we had to kind of relook at it. I went back to the client, and a very big name today. And I said that, what is the need? It is not very clear from job description. They said that we are looking for them to handle our pharmaceutical companies. And I said, so basically having a chemistry background will do it? Is it not possible for you to train a student who's very well spoken, has got amazing communication skills, is able to negotiate, and maybe you can train them? They said, no, we don't have the time, we don't have the energy, we won't have. Which was well taken. Probably they understood their job description better. Programs, modules, curriculum, not immersive enough. We started at one of my the second university that I went in. That time, for them, I was, although it was a university, I was handling marketing for them, but I was always again involved with students. We had a real estate program, and since the university was parent company was a real estate giant, they had the real estate actual practitioners, industry practitioners from their parent company coming and taking that module. We ran it for 2 years, but after that it lost steam because we could not continue with the actual practitioners, industry practitioners to come and teach our students. There's a huge difference between a real estate developer, builder, and so on and so forth. What is the relevance for a corporate person? Why should he or she, what's in it for him or what's in it for me? All trainers know this, it's always used. Why should I listen to her or why should I listen to him? Isn't it a very important thing for self-development? Anybody who is a corporate person here listening into this, conversation, how much of our day do we spend in probably picking up a book or a journal and reading it, or trying to bring about a skill which is not our core skill, and developing that skill? Skill India movement is happening, make in India movement is happening, and we all want skill sets. You see, skill sets and academic profile is totally two different divergent things. I may be a good person, I may have great sales techniques, and my targets are achievable, but when the company is looking in for a promotion, they'll probably not take me as a leadership role, because somewhere I'm missing my interpersonal skills, somewhere I don't have that leadership quality. So even corporate world needs to kind of challenge themselves. Now, certain modules which a corporate person can take on much, much better and probably support a faculty. In HR, you have training methodology, training roles, training managers role, payrolls and remuneration is a huge part of HR domain, sales and marketing, advertising, so on and so forth. You can't teach in just books. I think the relevance of Saurabh, that video, what you showed, I think for the next 2 hours, any dialogue, any conversation was, that particular video was enough. So what we saw, what we did was more important than any kind of a lecture. So basically, quality of demand is there. We want everything good, absolutely brilliant, but quality of supply, there is a total mismatch. And we say we have an employment ready workforce. So do we really? So I've just made this chart, which is very simple. My presentation is extremely simple. I wanted it to be very fluid. So we have these 4 huge things that make a university or an institute culture or the employment culture fabulous. And they're all connected. So there is a university, there are institutes. So we say good admissions brings in about placements. Now, definition of good, I really don't know, because I feel every student is good. I think the faculty needs to challenge themselves and stretch themselves. And fabulous placements will ensure that next year we have a fabulous intake. Now, in all of this, the circle, which is the corporate world, is the smallest. We say that there should be corporate involvement, but just coming in for a guest lecture, and believe you me, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the corporate people bring that very old and drudgery of a corporate presentation, which they used to, they're used to sharing it with their corporate clients to pitch for an account. They bring that same thing. I've seen this happening with my university, and the students get bored. They're already doing this in classroom. They want something unique. They want something which is actual. Let the industry practitioner take on a module and even understand how difficult it is to be teaching, to ensure that the 30 odd students or 300 odd students that I'm giving a lecture to, all of them are getting something great out of this lecture. Not easy. During my stint with one of the universities, we realized that when I took it upon myself, I selected 10 of my core clients. dream companies of my students, and I went to them. I said, okay, fine, I get it, I can't persuade you to hire students from my university, but is it not okay for you to come and give less guest lectures, relevant guest lectures? Can you not take our students for summers? So McKinsey came in. They, in fact, I don't know the situation now. I'm rightly out of touch with these organizations as far as placements is concerned. But even at that time, even for final placements, they will take you on for 6 months. You will not be on their payrolls. They'll give you a stipend. So a company, a brand name like McKinsey, either you are able to be okay with this situation where you're not earning a salary after doing your MBA, and or a company like Nestle that will come to your institute for a profile, but will with such a low salary that most of the students will not agree to take on that profile. So what we did is I got my team. I had a superlative team of trainers and faculty, and I asked them that, you know, let's get these companies to come in for summer internships. Let's devise a module in which we train our students and make them realize the importance of an internship and give them skills how to convert an internship into a PPO, pre-placement offer. We did manage some success, and it was a start, and we kept getting better at our deliverables, the way we were administering the training. And these are all workshop style, you know, classrooms. And we also went back to our same companies that took our students for an internship. It was a huge work load that we took upon ourselves. We went out of our comfort zone, me, my faculty, my trainers, and we said, let's also develop a skill. You're teachers, but why can't you be salespeople also? Everybody needs to sell this idea, you know. So we went back to our companies and I said, don't treat the students as youngsters. They've just come in. Don't waste their time. Give them something in that internship that they learn more than what they have been learning at the university, and give them something concrete so that they can also shine, challenge themselves. And then why don't you look at with an open heart and mind, and try and get them to work for you. You cannot always hire from the IIMs and the IITs, and you know, you probably will not be giving them the same salary. So why I'm passionate about this topic, I have been for some time, not been very successful in convincing quite a few of my clients to have the continuity with allow your staff, employees, senior executives, mid-level executives to connect, collaborate with the university, and let them continue teaching. Let them be teachers at heart also. And now I think we have no excuse when the entire world is forced to go digital. So we are not expecting the executives to travel and waste their time and then give the lectures. Comfort of your office, take 1 hour out. I think maximum classroom style is 45 minutes, 90 minutes, at a stretch, and deliver a lecture, take up a module which is close to your heart, collaborate with the university on an official basis, and have an immersive program where, when you say academia and corporate world in its actual sense, we need to get corporate executives. Solopreneurs is the new, I mean, I had heard this so many years back, but now it's coming in the forefront. There's a beautiful difference between solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, freelancers. The core of all these expertise is very different, and all of us need to take up modules. My mantra is corporate world needs to teach India, not just sit on fence and say there are not enough talented students. And um, I would like to, I have certain pointers, like for instance, there is a lot of collaboration happening, but it's only in the field of technology, because, let's say HDFC Bank, couple of years back, partnered with some 50 corporates and universities. But guess what? They did this for, IIT B and IIT Roorkee. Ministry of HRD has increased its funding for IIT Madras, but again in the technological sphere. Most of your incubation programs in universities happens for entrepreneurs. What about students who are in the other realm? So I think I feel the corporate world needs to start teaching. Universities will have to be open. Not all corporate people are PhDs and doctorates, and We've all probably done our masters and MBAs, and we are qualified. I may not be achieving my sales targets, but I may be a fabulous speaker. I may be a great motivator. We can take a brilliant example of Sachin Tendulkar. He's revered. He's like a god of cricket, and in fact, people love him so much. But captaincy was not his cup of tea. So on and so forth. And so, you know, like I started the whole presentation. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. The other thing that I can say right now is the farthest distance in the world is between how it is and how you thought it's going to be. I think right now I'm going to leave all of you with the last sentence that corporate world needs to be the mentor, and we should have a mentor mentee program where a couple of students are attached to and they take up modules and programs at universities, teach the students, scholars, undergraduate, postgraduate level, and I think we'll see a better world. So these are my thoughts, and I think Saurabh now maybe rest of the gathering can bring in, and we can all learn from each other what can be done, how we all can pitch in. Over to you, Saurabh. Thank you.